Greetings, everybody. Today I'd like to talk to you about a few of the more unique aspects surrounding the idea of a day without immigrants. In my case, I'm looking at the state of Nevada, which, with 20% of its population being foreign-born, is among the 5 highest in the nation. It's also the state with the highest percent of its population that is undocumented, and the state with the highest percentage of workers in its labor force that are undocumented. Nevada's immigrant population has been growing more rapidly than most. Nevada's foreign-born population ranked 9th in 1990, but ranked 5th by early 2012. Overall, in 2014, there were an estimated 11.3 million unauthorized immigrants in the United States, or 3.5% of the population. Let's take a brief look at the authorized immigrant population in Nevada. Nevada's immigrant population ballooned over the past couple of decades, from 9% in 1990 to 19% in 2015. In that year, there were more than 550,000 foreign-born individuals living in Nevada, comprising 19% of its population compared with 13% for the U.S. as a whole. In 2014, Nevada had the 5th highest rate of foreign-born citizens in its population, behind California, New York, New Jersey, and Florida. When we look at unauthorized immigrants in Nevada, we see that at the end of 2014 anyway, 10.4% of Nevada's workforce was undocumented, making it highest in the United States. And it was also the state with the highest share of undocumented immigrants in its state's population, 8%, or 210,000 individuals. Between 2009 and 2014, Nevada's undocumented population did decline, but it still ranks highest in the United States. Now I'd like to turn to the real focus of this talk, which is the more unique aspects of withdrawing the unauthorized population. In Las Vegas, where 3/4 of the state's population resides, the impact of life without immigrants on the local real estate market demands attention, for example. Arguably, the most important aspect of the American dream for immigrants is the acquisition of a home, and many are homeowners. As a result, as much research suggests, real estate agents, developers, and the construction industry would all be negatively impacted in a state without unauthorized immigrants. If we look specifically in the United States, we see that, according to the National Association of Realtors, foreigners bought more than 284,000 properties in 2017, more than a third than the year before. In recent decades, the 43+ million immigrants in the United States raised the U.S. housing wealth by $3.7 billion. According to the Migration Policy Institute, 3.4 million, or about 31% of the undocumented population, are homeowners. And the longer undocumented immigrants live in the U.S., the more likely they are to own a home. So if we now shift our attention to Nevada, we see that there were nearly 113,000 immigrant homeowners in the state in 2014. Immigrant-led households held more than $23 billion in real estate assets in Nevada, or 1 out of every 5 real estate dollars. Moreover, immigrant renters in Nevada in 2014 paid 22% of all the money spent on rent in Nevada that year. In short, if we actually followed the policy of removing immigrants from our state, from the state of Nevada, it would heighten the fragility of an overinflated, speculation-fueled housing market that has characterized the state for too long. Another aspect that often goes unconsidered when we examine a day without immigrants in the state of Nevada is the impact on self-employment and entrepreneurialism. In 2015, immigrants were almost twice as likely to start a new business as the native-born population. Moreover, they owned more than half of all grocery stores and 45% of all nail salons. Foreign-born individuals are behind 51% of all startups in the U.S., totaling more than $11 billion. 40% of Fortune 500 companies have at least one founder who was an immigrant or who was the child of one. Now, if we take a look at the same issue in Nevada, we see that the trends are parallel. 13% of all working-age entrepreneurs in Nevada are undocumented immigrants. An estimated 15,000 undocumented entrepreneurs in total in the state of Nevada. Additionally, foreign-born workers make up 30% of all entrepreneurs in Nevada. Firms in Nevada with at least one immigrant owner provided jobs to roughly 61,000 Americans in a recent year. 75% of Fortune 500 companies based in Nevada were founded by immigrants or children of immigrants, generating more than $32 billion in a recent year. Furthermore, nearly 32,000 immigrants are self-employed in Nevada. Immigrant-owned businesses generated nearly $800 million in 2014. Immigrants are 19% of the state's population, but make up 26% of those who are self-employed in Nevada. Overall, immigrants are 45% more likely to work than the native-born. And nearly 75% of the foreign-born population in Nevada is working, compared with 48% of the native-born. So if we are considering removing the immigrant population, we would be removing some of the hardest working, most innovative, most entrepreneurial part of our population. The last unique aspect I'd like to look at with respect to a day without immigrants is the impact on crime, which may come as counterintuitive to some, but it would create a less criminally inclined society. According to the American Immigration Council, immigrants documented and unauthorized are less likely to commit serious offenses and be behind bars than those born in the United States. While the number of immigrants was increasing between 1990 and 2013, violent crime rates were falling and property crime rates were falling. According to the American Community Survey data, a part of the Census Bureau, native-born Americans aged 18 to 54 have an incarceration rate of 1.5% compared with 0.85 for unauthorized immigrants and 0.47 for authorized immigrants. According to a Cato Institute study, legal and illegal immigrants are less likely to be incarcerated than natives. Data from the American Community Survey shows that the U.S.-born account for 82.4% of the population, but make up 91.8% of those who are incarcerated. Put another way, unauthorized immigrants make up just 9% of the population, but just 5.6% of the incarcerated population. 9% versus 5.6%. Moreover, legal immigrants make up 8.5% of the population, but just 2.9% of the incarcerated population. And this disparity has existed for decades. In every decennial census since 1980, the incarceration rates of the native-born were anywhere from 2 to 5 times higher than that of immigrants. Immigrants comprise less than 1% of the U.S. prison population, and the majority of the crimes for which they are arrested are nonviolent. Moreover, according to a variety of studies utilizing different methodologies, immigrants are less likely than the native-born to engage in violent or nonviolent antisocial behavior. Moreover, studies show that immigrants are less likely than the native-born to be repeat offenders as high risk in adolescence, and that immigrant youth who were students in the U.S. in middle and high schools in the mid-1990s now have among the lowest delinquency rates of all. It appears that the process of migration selects individuals who either have lower criminal propensities or are more responsive to deterrent effects than the average citizen. Newly arrived immigrants in the U.S. in the 1980s and 1990s seem particularly unlikely to be involved in criminal activity. So if we remove the immigrant population from extrapolating from existing research, we would find that Nevada would become a more criminally and more deviant inclined society. So in conclusion, what would life without immigrants in Nevada look like? Perhaps on the surface, most importantly, would be become a labor-starved state. It would mean doing without the necessary workforce to perform those jobs most Americans will not do or have proven themselves unable to do, at least not at prevailing wages. Perhaps the most immediate impact would be in the hotel, gaming, recreation sector, where foreign-born workers make up most of the maids, most of the dishwashers, cooks, those responsible for cleaning. They also make up most of the farm laborers, which means that we would be paying higher prices for fruits and vegetables at the supermarket. And there would be increasing pressure on employers to pay higher wages, which would increase consumer prices for everyone. It, of course, would mean a potential crippling or elimination of certain sectors of the economy, like the agricultural part, which are particularly labor intensive. As I mentioned, it would mean a more criminally and deviant inclined society. It would mean a loss of important revenue stream for state and federal coffers. It would mean a less culturally diverse society. And it would mean reduced support, as we mentioned earlier, for an often erratic, unstable, speculation-driven real estate industry. But perhaps most importantly of all, it would mean a weakened spirit of liberty in the state of Nevada, of the American spirit of hard work, persistence, and tenacity in the truest sense of the word. It would mean a loss of those among us who hold dearest the values Americans have long cherished the most, of those who are most likely to make life better for those around us just by being here, whether through the services they provide or because of the impact they have on increasing overall economic activity. In sum, Nevada would be a far less vibrant society, economically, socially, and culturally. Thank you for listening. I'm Bob Park.